highlighting history of suburban Sydney with the St Peters Cooks River History Group.
Our aim is to preserve and promote local history.
We are based at St Peters in Sydney's inner west.
The Forest is an area west of Sydney's northern beaches. It includes the suburbs of Belrose, Davidson, Duffys Forest, Forestville, French's Forest, Killarney Heights, Oxford Falls and Terrey Hills.
Rock carvings are evidence of early Indigenous occupation.
In 1853, Simeon Henry Pearce and his brother James acquired 200 acres of land, which is known as Rodborough.
James French bought land adjoining the Pearces in 1856.
Pearce's land was purchased by French. He developed a timber industry. 2 sawmills were established.
The timber was carted to a wharf at Bantry Bay and shipped to Sydney. Today the old bullock and timber getters' tracks, the ones used by French's workers to haul logs, are bushwalks.
French built a house on stone foundations located near the corner of today's Hilmer Street and Primrose Avenue. It was only used on weekends as his main residence was at Willoughby. The French's Forest house was destroyed by fire.
The first permanent residents of French's Forest were William and Hannah Hughes, who bought some of French's land in 1885.
Their first home was a timber dwelling on the corner of the present Bantry Bay and Ku-Ring-Gai roads.
Hughes, having previously owned brickworks at Petersham, established the brickworks.
The brickworks employed upward of 40 people who were housed in small cottages for married men and a dormitory for single men. The forest became a community centred around the brickworks.
About 1900, Hughes built a new brick house on the stone foundations of the gutted French house. It is still standing on the corner of Primrose Avenue and Hilmer Street.
A tennis court and cricket oval with a pavilion were established nearby. The Hughes home became the centre of activity in the district.
When the clay ran out during World War I, the brickworks ceased operating. The site is now Brick Pit Reserve.
Hughes' land, when subdivided, was advertised as Township Estate, French's Forest.
Bantry Bay was set aside for public recreation in 1879.
By the late 1890s, picnic grounds had been established by John Nelson at Bantry Bay and nearby Flat Rock. Dance halls and pavilions catered for those seeking refreshment or entertainment. It was serviced on Sundays and public holidays by ferries from the city. The stone footings of the dance hall can still be seen between the jetty and slipway on the bay's eastern shore.
The bay is a known habitat of bull sharks. In 1942, 2 fatal shark attacks occurred there.
From the 1880s, hulks were used to store explosives at Powder Hulk Bay.
In 1910, the construction of 9 explosive magazines commenced at Bantry Bay.
In 1915, the works were handed over to the State Explosive Department. The magazines, operated on a commercial basis by the state government, were used for receiving, storing and distributing explosives for civil and commercial purposes.
During World War II, the complex was used by the Allied forces. In the 1970s, the magazines were closed and incorporated into Davidson Park State Recreation Area, now part of Garigal National Park.
The explosive depot is listed on the New South Wales State Heritage Register.
After the first Roseville Bridge opened in 1924, the area became a destination for weekend drives to visit the roadside stalls, shops, tea rooms and tea gardens.
Land in the area was selected as part of a soldier settlement scheme. The wider Sydney community assisted the settlement when a group of 300 volunteers from all walks of life donated their 1916 New Year's holiday period to clearing land.
A voluntary workers' association was formed. Each group of workers undertook to clear a block of land and build a cottage. One voluntary group, called the Press Gang, was made up of journalists and newspaper workers.
The last house built was handed over to World War I veteran Alfred Pearce in 1917.
Returned soldiers were given access to land on affordable terms with advances of money to purchase equipment, plants, stock and seeds, and to make improvements to the land.
The 38 farms were small and infertile. Most original settlers left their land. Only 8 settlers and a few farms survived until after World War II. The old soldier settlement became subdivisions for residential homes in the 1950s.
In 1929, Crown land on Blackbutts Road was set aside for equestrian pursuits. The French's Forest Agricultural and Horticultural Society was formed in 1932. A show was held the following year on Birch's Oval, now Lionel Watts Park. The first competition on the new showground was held circa 1947.
Proceeds from hiring were used to improve the grounds. In 1958, a trotting track was completed. A new pavilion was officially opened in 1982. It was used by community groups until an arson attack in 2003. What remained of the building was retained and refurbished.
In 1940, the first burial took place at French's Forest General Cemetery, today French's Forest Bushland Cemetery.
George Sawley, a show business entertainer with the travelling tent show, retired in 1945. He established the Sawley Construction Company to build a model village at French's Forest. Shortage of materials ended the project after less than a dozen homes had been built. The site became the location of Arndale Shopping Mall, today Forest Way Shopping Centre.
In 1952, a blinking light experimental signal was installed at the intersection of Ku-Ring-Gai Road and Wakehurst Parkway. Its purpose was to determine whether or not the beacon would have any effect in slowing down motorists approaching potentially dangerous intersections. The blinking light was replaced by traffic signals in 1966. A plaque commemorates the blinking light.
A Transit studios associated with ATN Channel 7 were on Ku-Ring-Gai Road near the blinking light.
In 1953, private interests planned to build an open-air drive-in theatre, restaurant and a modern hotel in French's Forest. The drive-in theatre would accommodate at least 500 cars. It would be Australia's first drive-in theatre on American lines. 60 bungalows, an Olympic pool and other amenities were also planned.
The Skyline Drive-In opened in 1956. It closed in 1984.
The Northern Beaches Hospital opened in 2018.
The French's Forest 2041 Place Strategy was released in 2021. It contains the creation of a town centre through the relocation of the Forest High School, new jobs connected to Northern Beaches Hospital, new homes, social activities and community places.
The high school is to be relocated on Allambie Road, taking over a portion of the French's Forest Cerebral Palsy Alliance Centre.
Forestville was originally known as the Soldier Settlement, French's Forest.
The modern suburb of Forestville emerged when a public school was established in 1953 and Forestville Shopping Centre in 1957.
Belrose is said to be derived from the names of 2 plants that were predominant in the area, the Christmas bell and the bush rose.
Primarily a residential area, it also has the Aust Business Park, a supercentre and 2 shopping centres.
It is the location of a satellite Earth station. In 1981 it was AUSSAT, an Australian government company which owned and operated the national satellite system. Acquired by Optus in 1992, it became Australia's first privately owned communications carrier. Today, the key operations centre for Optus satellite services.
Davidson was named after Sir Walter Davidson, a governor of New South Wales. A park was dedicated in his honour in 1923 and the developing suburb took the name. The area began as a mining quarry with residential development beginning in the late 1970s.
Duffy's Forest takes its name from Patrick Duffy, who obtained land there in 1857. He was a timber cutter and cleared a road through the bush to Quarrying Creek, where he built a stone wharf for transporting timber. The wharf is still known as Duffy's Wharf, and the road Duffy's Track.
Land subdivision in 1955 allocated areas for servicemen or ex-servicemen.
Waratah Park, located at Duffy's Forest, served as a fictional Waratah National Park, the filming location for the Australian television series Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. It became a popular tourist attraction with picnic facilities, walking tracks and a wildlife park which maintained the park's connection with the TV show. The park closed in 2009, becoming Waratah Park Earth Sanctuary. Some of the sets and props remained. The park was eventually closed to the public. In 2014, the government passed full ownership of the land to the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council.
Killarney Heights is on a peninsula bound by the waters of Middle Harbour and Bantry Bay. The name comes from a town in County Kerry, Ireland.
Originally part of Forestville, the area was developed from the 1950s as South Forestville and Heidelberg. The suburb east of Starkey Street became the site of an L.J. Hooker development in the early 1960s, prior to the completion of the second Roseville Bridge in 1966.
In February 1979, a Lithuanian couple, who believed they were being chased by Soviet agents, were discovered in bushland adjacent to the suburb. Stepan Petrovsky and his wife were discovered after having lived in a cave for 28 years. Local children who frequented the bush knew of these people as early as 1960.
Oxford Falls was gazetted as a suburb in 1902. The track or road into Oxford Falls became a dead end at Middle Creek.
In 1939, work for the unemployed was the construction of a new road from the Spit through French's Forest to Narrabeen.
Work progressed until 1942 when it stopped. Other coastal requirements such as tank traps were a wartime priority. Construction recommenced in 1945 and the Wakehurst Parkway was opened to traffic the following year. It was named after Lord Wakehurst, a governor of New South Wales.
Terrey Hills owes its name to two of the original landholders, Samuel Hills and Obadiah James Terrey.
It is known as the laterite capital of the Sydney Basin. Laterite was used for early road making and rock wall coastal defence at Coleroy Beach. During the Great Depression, the quarry was an important place for the distribution of government relief work funding.
The two laterite quarries in Terrey Hills are now heritage listed. The original main quarry is now the Terrey Hills playing field. A smaller quarry is located at Tumbledown Dick.
The forest area is the centre of some of the most picturesque natural features in Sydney's north. The Ku-Ring-Gai National Park and Garigal National Park are on its doorstep. If you have enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel. It's free. Coming soon, Panania, Picnic Point and East Hills. And check out our website, stpeterscooksriverhistory.wordpress.com. Visit us the first Saturday of every month from 1:30 till 4:30 at 187 Princes Highway, St Peters.